The name Iron Mike once carried more than fame. It carried fear. Mike Tyson was not merely a boxer. He was a phenomenon whose presence alone transformed arenas into spaces of tension and dread. Opponents faced him with trepidation, and crowds held their breath, sensing the force about to be unleashed. His rise was not just athletic, it was atmospheric. The world of boxing became charged with anticipation and uncertainty whenever Tyson entered the ring. Yet behind the explosive knockouts and media glare was a boy shaped by loss, poverty, and instability. Today, at 59, Tyson's battles are no longer measured by fists or championships, but by memory, introspection, and the challenge of personal reinvention. The story of Iron Mike is not just one of raw power. It is a journey from survival through triumph and devastation to a quieter understanding of strength. Brooklyn beginnings. Survival in a harsh world. Mike Tyson was born on June 30th, 1966, in Brooklyn, New York, into circumstances that left little room for innocence. His biological father vanished early, and other father figures appeared only briefly before disappearing as well, leaving his mother, Lorna, to navigate crushing poverty alone. Brownsville, the neighborhood where the family settled, was notorious for violence, drugs, and crime, and young Tyson's days were defined by hunger and danger. Oversized glasses and a speech impediment made him an easy target for bullies, reinforcing a sense of isolation that would later shape his personality. In such an environment, survival became instinctive. Every interaction carried the risk of humiliation or harm. The young Tyson learned early that the world would offer no safety nets. To endure, he had to toughen himself. The pressures of Brooklyn's streets hardened him, laying the groundwork for the aggressive, relentless fighter he would become. Pigeons and the first lessons of loss. Amid the chaos of Brownsville, Tyson discovered solace in the unlikely company of pigeons on the rooftops. Caring for the birds gave him a rare sense of responsibility and tenderness, a small sanctuary amid instability. He nurtured them, confided in them, and found comfort in their presence. But one afternoon, a neighborhood boy killed his favorite pigeon, delivering a devastating blow. That loss became a turning point. Grief transformed into anger, and vulnerability into a determination never to feel powerless again. The rooftop sanctuary that had offered safety was replaced by a hunger for control and dominance. This early experience foreshadowed the duality of Tyson's nature, capable of tenderness, yet quick to channel pain into aggression. The seeds of his ferocity were sown not in the ring, but on those Brooklyn rooftops, where he first learned that life could be cruel and survival demanded strength. Juvenile detention, the crucible of transformation. By age 13, Tyson had already accumulated nearly 40 arrests, caught in a cycle of petty crime and street violence that seemed impossible to escape. The world around him offered few alternatives, and he responded to chaos with chaos. In 1978, he was sent to the Tryon School for Boys, a juvenile detention facility in upstate New York. The experience was stark and isolating, made worse by the absence of his mother. Yet within the cold halls, a transformation began. Counselor Bobby Stewart noticed Tyson's extraordinary physical power as he hit a heavy bag and introduced him to Cus D'Amato, a trainer who would become the central figure in his life. For the first time, Tyson encountered guidance that combined discipline with belief. The detention center, which could have been just another site of failure, instead became the threshold of his journey from troubled youth to disciplined athlete, showing that talent alone is insufficient without mentorship and structure. Cus D'Amato, father, mentor, and architect of discipline. Cus D'Amato became the stabilizing force Tyson had lacked his entire life. At the Catskill Gym, the 14-year-old was told he could become the youngest heavyweight champion in history, an audacious vision no one else had dared articulate. D'Amato provided more than training. He provided a model for life, instilling discipline, focus, and mental toughness. Tyson's raw aggression was refined into a calculated, strategic style. The peekaboo technique he mastered emphasized speed, precision, and defense, turning his ferocity into a weapon. D'Amato's influence went beyond boxing. He taught Tyson that strength without control is destructive, while strength guided by discipline can be unstoppable. Under D'Amato's mentorship, Tyson began to see the ring as a place of purpose, not just survival. The boy who had once relied on instinct now relied on technique, preparation, and an unshakable belief in his potential, setting the stage for a meteoric rise, conquering the boxing world. Tyson's professional debut in 1985 lasted under 2 minutes, signaling the beginning of a career defined by unparalleled speed and ferocity. 15 fights in his first year showcased his knockout power, and by November 22, 1986, he defeated Trevor Berbick to become the youngest heavyweight champion in history at just 20 years old. Tyson quickly unified the division, claiming the WBA and IBF titles, and by 21, he was the undisputed champion. His 1988 victory over Michael Spinks, lasting only 91 seconds, cemented his reputation as a force of nature. Tyson's dominance was not merely physical, it was psychological. Opponents feared not only the punches, but the aura of inevitability that surrounded him. He redefined what fear meant in boxing, transforming each bout into a spectacle of both skill and intimidation. His early career was a perfect storm, combining youth, power, and a relentless drive honed through years of hardship. The cracks appear, loss of guidance and first defeat. Even as victories piled up, the foundations that supported Tyson's dominance began to erode. D'Amato passed away in 1985, just as Tyson's career began to peak. The loss of his mentor left a void, compounded by the eventual deaths and departures of other key figures in his life, including manager Jimmy Jacobs and trainer Kevin Rooney. Without structure, Tyson's discipline wavered, training became inconsistent, and distractions multiplied. The first major sign of vulnerability came in 1990 when he faced Buster Douglas in Tokyo. Overconfident and underprepared, Tyson was defeated in the 10th round, marking one of the most shocking upsets in boxing history. The loss was more than physical, it was symbolic. It revealed that even the most fearsome fighter could be undone by ego, distraction, and the absence of guidance. The fall from invincibility was a turning point, forcing Tyson to confront the fragility beneath the myth: prison, isolation, and introspection. In 1992, Tyson's life took another drastic turn with a conviction for rape, resulting in a 3-year prison sentence. For a man accustomed to adulation and power, incarceration was a humbling and isolating experience. Stripped of his champion identity, Tyson faced a prolonged confrontation with himself. He immersed himself in reading, converted to Islam, and began reflecting on the anger and impulses that had defined much of his life. Prison offered an unrelenting stillness, forcing him to confront patterns of self-destruction and mismanagement. Upon release in 1995, Tyson briefly reclaimed boxing titles, yet the aura of invincibility was gone. The fighter was still powerful, but the public now recognized a man tempered by experience. Prison had forced a reckoning, illustrating that true strength includes self-awareness, reflection, and the courage to confront personal failings, a lesson far more enduring than any knockout victory. The ear-biting incident, frustration. Unleashed, Tyson's return to the ring demonstrated flashes of brilliance but also volatility. The 1997 bout against Evander Holyfield, in which Tyson infamously bit his opponent's ear, became the most visible symbol of his inner turmoil. This moment revealed more than aggression. It exposed unresolved pain and a lack of emotional control. The ring, once a place of empowerment, had become a stage for unprocessed trauma. Fans and critics alike were shocked, but the incident underscored a deeper truth. A man who had once conquered the world in the ring was still wrestling with the vulnerabilities and frustrations of his formative years. The spectacle was a cautionary tale about the consequences of neglecting emotional growth. Even the most extraordinary talent cannot compensate for unresolved trauma. Tyson's brilliance and destructiveness were intertwined, revealing a human complexity behind the myth. Wealth and collapse, the cost of excess. Tyson's earnings exceeded $400 million over the course of his career. Yet by 2003, he declared bankruptcy with debts surpassing $20 million. Lavish spending, Poor financial planning and ongoing legal troubles drained his fortune. Expensive homes, luxury cars, and entourages became symbols not of success, but of insecurity. The collapse was subtle, yet devastating, exposing the fragility of identity built solely on fame and wealth. Without material distractions, Tyson was confronted with himself. The absence of applause and power created space for reflection, forcing him to examine life's deeper meaning. Loss became a teacher, illustrating that personal strength is not measured by accumulation, but by resilience, humility, and the ability to rebuild. This financial fall mirrored the personal and professional challenges he had faced, reinforcing that recovery requires honesty, discipline, and an acceptance of vulnerability. Love, loss, and the journey to renewal. Tyson's personal life mirrored the turbulence of his career. His first marriage to Robin Givens collapsed quickly under public scrutiny. Later, his marriage to Monica Turner ended amid struggles with trauma and infidelity. The most profound loss came in 2009 when his 4-year-old daughter, Exodus, died tragically. The grief reshaped him, replacing anger with humility and a renewed awareness of life's fragility. In subsequent years, Tyson sought therapy, sobriety, and stability. His marriage to Lakeha Kiki Spicer brought a quieter, more intentional family life. These personal transformations illustrate that resilience is not about avoidance of pain, but engagement with it. Tyson's story of love, loss, and redemption highlights the journey from survival to self-awareness, revealing that the deepest victories occur within, not in the ring. Conclusion: strength reimagined. Today, Tyson's life is defined by reflection, family, and advocacy rather than dominance or wealth. His net worth, estimated between $10 and $20 million, is modest compared to his peak earnings, but it represents a foundation built on wisdom rather than excess. Tyson champions mental health awareness and supports youth initiatives, using his story as both warning and inspiration. The legend of Iron Mike endures, not because he was invincible, but because he fell and rebuilt himself with honesty. Strength is no longer measured by punches or fear, but by resilience, humility, and the courage to confront oneself. The storm that once struck terror in opponents now seeks peace within. Tyson's journey from troubled youth to cultural icon exemplifies that true victory is not in destruction, but in the deliberate act of rebuilding a life with purpose, meaning, and integrity.